Today I wanted to share with you this one habit that I've found has been so effective over the years when working with CEOs, busy professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners who are cyclists, but want to really lose weight to improve their health, performance on the bike, fitness, longevity at the same time. And I've also implemented this exact habit into my own lifestyle now over the past 10 years, and it's what allowed me to lose 20 kilos, increase my FTP by over 100 watts, but now actually sustain this weight and level of fitness, give or take a few kilos or a few watts, throughout the year just by implementing this. And now live in the Alps here, and if I want to go and ride, you can see the climbs behind me actually be in a condition where I don't have to think about it like I used to and actually really prepare for it over a time period to maybe go and do that. It's now by implementing this habit, it's literally, okay, yeah, I'm going to go and ride this climb tomorrow. I now know that I'm at a level of power to weight, fitness, health that I can go and do that without having to think about it too much, and be able to actually go and enjoy that whilst still being, a business owner myself, being a father, and being able to really enjoy, obviously, then riding the bike and experience, living here in the Alps at the same time. So let's get straight to it. Really, it's just looking at finding a time in your day, carving out some time in your day that you can try to train consistently, where you can ride your bike consistently. So for you, I'm sure if you're watching, this is going to be, it may be, first thing in the morning, like very early in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, before the family gets up. If you've got kids, before the kids get up, before the day of business, really starts. You may have to get the 45-minute window that you have. It might be, first thing in the day. For you, it might be at lunchtime. You may have like an hour window at lunchtime where you can get your training done there. Execute a training session. Won't go too much into the structure of the sessions today. I'm just really want to help you find a time that works for you, and then start to form a habit with that training time, as you'll see why in a moment. This helps not just for improving fitness, but then also really with weight loss and nutrition and everything to go with that as well. It fixes a lot of those things just by doing this. So you may find that actually it's lunchtime for you that works best to train, or it might be it's later in the evening after you finished work, you're in for the day. If you've got children, again, you put the kids to bed, you may have to train early in the evening, because just generally with your role that you're doing or the business that you're running, you may have to even start work at 5, 6 o'clock. But what I would encourage you to do, really, really encourage you to do, is just find that time and then really start to execute on that time. So let's just use a 5, 6 a.m. example. And the reason I go to this is I generally find that if you are able to train that early in the morning and get your session done, there's a huge number of advantages for this as a CEO, business owner, entrepreneur. And this is really because, one, if you get your training done at that time of the day, then through the day there's normally a lot of distractions that come, right? Something may happen in the business. You might have to attend a meeting, you might have to jump in on a certain thing with a Teams call, a Zoom meeting, a certain department needs your attention. That may then, backlog your day, or there'll just be distractions through the day. Or again, if you're even after work, when you finish, you get in, the family needs something, then the actual chance of you performing a training session or executing that training, exercising, I have just found it can really reduce. I find if you do have some accountability there, you have a coach or someone to hold you accountable, maybe a group ride that you're going to do, then that does improve the chance of you actually exercising later in the day or in the evening, if you have some accountability with that. But if you don't have any accountability in place and you are just trying to do this solely on your own, then I find that 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, or wherever that may be that fits in with your schedule, is the best time to train, because it's done. And at that time, if it's done, it's also a really good feeling, because you've ticked it off, you've got your session done, and no matter what then comes through the rest of the day, that you've actually done your training. And then the second point with this, the great thing is that is also an amazing feeling. And I just find it provides such clarity, not just from a physical standpoint, but more so psychologically, because you've got up, you've beat the first challenge of the day, you're out of bed, you've done your exercise, and that in itself just gives a drive and a motivation for you to really set yourself up for the rest of the day and go and tackle the rest of the day. And I've found in my own experience, but also with all of the professionals that we've worked with, is that they're actually then starting to perform better in the business, professional, job, work environment, whatever your role may be. Because just by actually getting up, getting yourself out of bed there, getting that session ticked off, that itself is fantastic motivation to then go and tackle the rest of your day, and gives you a sense of fulfillment. Again, not just in your profession, in your business as a CEO or whatever your role is, but then also I've just found, certainly in my experience with family as well. You know that you're working on your fitness, you're improving your longevity so that you can spend the years to come with your family in the best version of yourself, feeling really fit, strong, healthy, which with the research that's coming out at the moment around, VO2 max and sustaining VO2 max as high as you can through life has actually been shown to live longer. So effectively you're even, extending, if you think of it in some way, the time and the quality of the time that you're going to be able to spend with your loved ones, family and children through actually just getting that first session of the week done in the morning, or getting that session wherever it is through the week done, ticked off, and then really starting to form a habit with that. Okay, so if it is first thing in the morning, great, but as I say, for you that might be at lunchtime, it might be later in the evening. In the evening, some accountability can really help with that, whether that's in the form of a coach, a trainer, a mentor, or if it's just certainly at this time of year now through the summer, you're just organising, some group rides, and actually someone saying, yeah, Ben, we're going out on a ride this evening, are you going to be there? I find that just certainly helps after a long day in the office or travelling to be able to actually make sure that you are getting on the bike and exercising. And these initial habits, doing this training, for the first 10 to 14 days, they are probably going to be really quite hard. Certainly if you're not already getting up at that time, like 5, half 5, 6 o'clock, to train and exercise, for the first 10 to 14 days, I'll be completely honest with you, it's probably going to be quite hard to do that. But if you stick with it for 10 to 14 days, and I found in my experience that habits are really formed after a 10 to 14 day period. And then the body clock starts to adjust. Your body starts to look forward to doing that. And it doesn't even then start to have to think about it. You just automatically start getting up, you start exercising, you get that great feeling, and then you start to build momentum and consistency with that as well. And that is a real benefit, certainly from a training standpoint, as you are just starting to exercise more consistently through the week, which is great. You're burning more calories just generally as a whole, which is really going to help with, if you are trying to lose weight, your exercise, but certainly your fitness. But really, the key part here as well is obviously we can exercise as much as we like. We can have a great training schedule, but the nutrition and the fueling is then the absolute crucial, certainly if you're looking to reduce body fat or lose weight. So the reason why that habit that we've now formed there with the time of day that we're actually training is really beneficial for the weight loss is because when you start to do that, you can actually then start to plan your nutrition and your fueling through the day as well. And again, there's two reasons why this is really good. The first one is that you're actually probably going to then, because you've got a structure, you've formed a habit with when you're training, you can then start to fuel yourself better and prepare better from a fueling standpoint for that ride or that training session. So if you are training at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, you're doing a hard session, maybe you're doing some VO2 max intervals, maybe you're doing some threshold intervals, or you're just getting on the bike and riding, knowing that you're doing it at that time. If you know you're doing a hard session, then that means the evening prior that you want to try and include some carbohydrates in your evening meal. Let's just say you're doing 5, 6 o'clock on a Wednesday morning, you're doing a VO2 max interval training session, for example. That means on the Tuesday evening, because you know that you're getting up and doing it at that time and you've then formed that habit, that on the Tuesday evening, that's where you really want to ensure that you're having something along the lines of pasta, potatoes, rice, wholemeal breads, just some form of carbohydrates in your evening meal, because you're going to top up muscle and liver glycogen then overnight. You're going to have that available. You can jump on the bike in the morning and have loads of energy and feel really good in that session, which means you're actually going to improve the quality of that training session. You form that habit, you do that, and then through what you're doing with your training, you actually see more progress from that as well, because you're feeling better, you've got more energy, so you're performing better in those sessions, and this alone will then unlock that progress that you might not be seeing at the moment with your training, because you're then fueling better for those sessions and you have more energy available. On the other side of this, if you're doing maybe some fasted riding, so like some zone 2, 1 hour sessions, 45-minute sessions, because you're looking to get those zone 2 aerobic development benefits, but also enhanced fat adaptation, again, if you know that you're doing that 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, that's a great time to do it from an overnight fast, then you can get up in the morning, you know that you don't necessarily need to take anything on for that session. You can actually just get up, get on the bike, do your zone 2 ride. You won't necessarily need to take on any carbohydrates during the ride because you're doing it fasted. That again is then going to help from a weight loss standpoint. You're enhancing those fat adaptations, you're getting those zone 2 benefits. But again, because you form that habit, you know when you're training, you can then adjust and play with the fueling to align with when you're training, and then also the type of session that you're doing, which will rapidly increase the progress and the results that you're seeing then from your training as well. With the nutrition then, day to day, so that's the fueling, the benefits of forming that habit. We've established the training time, we now know when we're fueling. Just again as an example, if you may be training at lunchtime, you can adjust your fueling to the front end of the day, Certainly if you're doing some hard intervals at lunchtime, you know that you need some carbohydrates at breakfast or through the morning to fuel for that session. If you're doing the session later in the evening, you know that, or let's say around 5-6 o'clock before you have your evening meal, then you know that from lunchtime onwards, that's where you want to place the emphasis on your carbohydrate fueling going into a hard interval session or a harder group ride, chain gang, group ride, as I say, if you've got that accountability there and you are riding in the evening, place that emphasis with the carbohydrates from lunchtime onwards. And again, just by form that habit, you know when you're training, you know when you're doing it, really beneficial from the fueling standpoint as well. Fasted riding, zone 2 riding later on in the day is quite hard. I was saying if you're looking to do that for the benefits, one, for the fat adaptation, aerobic development, but also for weight loss, then ideally you do want to perform that earlier in the day. So even just having that structure there, you may say, okay, my fasted rides, I'm going to do an hour at 5-6 o'clock in the morning, whenever that may be. And then actually some sessions later in the week, the ones that need more fueling for, because you can't really do those fasted rides later in the day and get the same benefits, you may actually place those then later in the afternoon, later in the evening, and align it that way there. The reason this is really good then for the nutrition, we formed a habit, we're now fueling it well, is you can then actually start to form a habit with your nutrition through the rest of the day, but also the week as well. And this is the absolute key here. This is what I found has worked so well over the years, because if you know when you're training consistently, you form that habit, you can then just start to piece together your nutrition for the rest of the day, depending on where you train. So again, if you've trained early in the morning or you've done your harder session, you fueled with your carbohydrates either the evening prior or before doing that session during the day, whenever that may be, you've had your carbohydrates there. If you are then looking to lose weight, I would advise that you then reduce your carbohydrate intake for the rest of the day. You still can have some carbohydrates depending on what your role is and what you're doing through the rest of the day, generally as your sort of energy levels or your base goal that you have to play with. But if you're someone who's fairly sedentary, you're not really maybe doing much exercise for the rest of the day, and the only exercise that you do is riding your bike, then I would say, yeah, place the emphasis with your carbohydrate fueling and nutrition before the ride, and then for the rest of the day, focus on high protein sources. So really try to get as much protein as possible into your meals for the rest of the day. So whether this is lunchtime, whether it's the evening meal, and then lots of fruits and vegetables to go with those proteins as well, or the fruits and vegetables to align with your calorie intake that you may have available on that day if you set that for a weight loss target you've got. But the great thing is then we've actually we've just formed a structure with the day with your nutrition. Because you know when you're training, you formed a habit with the training, you can then start to form the habits with the nutrition. And I guess for most of you, if you're a bit like me, creature of habit, right? We eat generally similar things from like Monday to Friday, 100% Monday to Friday for me, yeah? So if you know, okay, this is when I'm training, then probably you'll find that your lunchtime meals or your evening meals will be very similar. And if you're just placing high protein focus, maybe like a, protein focused salad, for example, protein focused in the evening with some vegetables that you may be having with a family, you can still add some carbohydrates in there. But because you know you've already done your session for the day and you're not waiting or wondering that when that session's going to happen and then not having a clue where you're actually then what you need to do with your nutrition for that, because you know you've done your session, you've fueled with the carbohydrates, the rest of the day you can keep fairly lean on the carbs, increase protein, fruits, vegetables, good protein sources through the day. So that might be if you can eat meats, fish, dairy, yogurt, Greek yogurt and things is a fantastic way to top up on protein through the day. You can throw different things in there as well. You can make that up depending on what you obviously have available as well. If you're traveling, this becomes a little bit harder, but I find applying the same thing to the travel can really help as well and pre-planning that. So this is another thing we have to really help our clients with, and I had to do a lot when I was traveling, when I was working in elite sport, is look at the trip that you've got coming up. If you know the hotel that you're going to, you know roughly what your meeting schedules are through the day. It's then almost forming like the travel habit. So if you know that you're staying in a hotel, you've got access to a gym, then actually say, right, yeah, 5-6 o'clock, I'm going to be getting up, I'm going to get my session done, so that when you actually then you can do your meetings for the rest of the day, you've done that, and that then really also helps with the nutrition and the fueling side of things with it as well. So yeah, I hope that helps. I hope that makes sense. I just found that has been so effective. There's one habit that I have implemented both in my own lifestyle, but with our clients, CEOs, business owners, entrepreneurs who are cyclists wanting to lose weight over the past 10 years, that has been an absolute key. Find the time, number one, find the time that works best for you in terms of where you can fit it into your day realistically. Stick with that, form that habit. 2, then align your fueling with that session depending on what you're doing. Okay, that's key, because you've got that time now. You can actually start to align a fueling strategy with that, which is going to help improve your energy during the ride, improve your performance, and so you will see more progress with your power, fitness, and health from the training that you're doing. And the third key is, once we've established that training time, we know what the fueling is, it's then so much easier for throughout the day to actually align your day-to-day nutrition with that. Focus on a well-balanced, healthy diet, good sources of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. But then you can actually amend those macronutrients. As I say, you know that you want to place the emphasis with the carbohydrates pre any ride, certainly any long rides or high intensity rides, and then the protein, the micronutrients, the fruits and the vegetables, do that after, and then just add in the carbohydrates as you need to, depending on what you've got going through the day.